What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Quarters Podcast, your go-to things for all NFL draft, college football, and everything in between. Today, we're diving into the strengths and weaknesses of each position of the upcoming draft class, spotlighting some stars, key players, and we're also diving into the free agency class. So we're going to grade them. We're going to be looking at grades for each group and where your team should be looking. Should they looking if they need a running back in the draft class, or are there some free agents out there? Running back's probably not the position. I would be looking at free agents coming up, but we're going to be looking at every single position, diving deep in this episode. All right, we got some tough graders on this episode today as we're going through the grades for these positions around here. So you'll see our grade there to the left if you watch on YouTube. If you listen on the podcast, I'll get it out there. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. Much maligned class out there. Now, for free agents, though, so the top free agents out there heading into the quarterback class, Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. One of them's going to get a contract with the Steelers. The other one's not. Jameis Winston's out there and doing something between the lines. I don't know, throwing picks and praying. Mac Jones and Zach Wilson is out there. As far as our grades, consensus-wise, around a D+. Christian was the high with a C-. I was a low at a D, so we just kind of rounded it out there. But, you know, Randy, of these guys, does anybody stand out to you as possibly being a guy for a team next year?
I mean, we've seen good flashes with Sam Darnold. Russell Wilson's playing better than anyone expected right now. Justin Fields showed a lot of good things early on and, you know, showed the maturity we expected from Fields and how they've handled the situation, coming in when he needs to and all that. Jameis Winston, as always, plays great and sometimes not as much, but either way, he's fun. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, just maybe not for your team. And then, you know, you have project guys, Mac Jones, a second chance somewhere else, I think is a big thing. Zach Wilson, who cares? But I think the reason we're all pretty low, you know, Wilson, like you said, Wilson or Fields, it's going to be Wilson probably sticking around. Winston, I'd be shocked if he goes somewhere else unless someone's giving him a true shot at a starter, but I think the Browns kind of are if they're keeping Watson too. And then Darnold is really the question mark, I guess, if he's staying or, you know, the Raiders or someone is going to give him a lot of money, the Giants, to take over that kind of franchise. But for the most part, we're getting people going back. And we don't have the Kirk Cousins or a very top-end guy. We just have some flashes from some veterans here.
Yeah, I give it a C- because I do think that you're getting potentially 4 starting quarterbacks from this free agent class, but that doesn't really speak to the strength of the class. It more speaks to the idea that there are no good quarterbacks in the NFL, which I think we can comfortably say. Like, I think Fields is better than a few starters right now. I think Darnold is worse than quite a few guys that, you know, should be playing. Michael Penix is one of those guys, but like, I think it would be really funny to see Sam Darnold go back to the New York Giants, go back to New York and kind of have another. Well, I know he was on the Jets, but like go back to New York and you know, continue his career there. But really, I think you might get 4 starters because I think Jameis, picks aside, like. The offense in Cleveland looks exponentially better with him, so I think he'll stick around. I think you're right, Kevin, or Randy, that Wilson's probably the one sticking in Pittsburgh, and then Justin Fields maybe goes and starts somewhere. Mac Jones might go back to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence's injury history, so there's just not much within this class right now.
And I think that is the biggest. That's why I give it a D+. Like you said, there's a potential for 4. You know, maybe 4 starters in a reclamation project, but at least half these guys are just going back. So that really takes away from the class.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like if I always base these things on vibes, but also as like an NFL fan, if like my big acquisition, if I'm an NFL team and I get Sam Darnold, and like I don't know how excited I am about that. Like I don't know, like where I'm like, yay, Sammy. I mean, I like Sam. I've been like a Sam guy. But I don't know if I'm like, yeah, that's the guy that's going to lead me to a Super Bowl. Like, nah, I don't think so. And that's why, you know, I was a little down. I did put D there. And you guys like Fields and those guys. It's funny we put Trey Lance in the show sheet. That could just go away forever, unfortunately.
Hmm.
All right, let's go.
Right.
So we're looking at the class of quarterbacks. We've kind of hit on a lot here, at least on the pod. But I know people are starting to get into this class now. It's December. Your teams are out of it, and you're like, all right, what's coming next? Top prospects for us. We gave this a C. There is no consensus on this class. We get the comments all the time about you're hating on so he's the clear 101. It's like, no, he's not. Like, let's stop there. Cam Ward, Shador Sanders really are the top two that most people are picking. Drew Aller's out there somewhere in Christian land. He's a big Drew Aller guy, and whether we'll see. I mean, they have a big game coming this week when they play in Oregon in the championship game, the playoff potentially. Maybe he comes out. Jalen Milroe's out there. Garrett Musselmeyer's probably going back to school. Quinn Ewers, who knows what's going to happen there. He made some great throws against Texas A&M, and then he made some just what the hell dubious plays out there. So, like, overall, C, I don't know how much more we need to talk about this class at all. I do think if Drew Aller does well enough and decides to come out, and then we get another first-round guy, I think that's where it gets interesting. Christian, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you have to grade currently kind of low because right now it looks like only two of these guys are for sure declaring.
Yeah.
Like Aller, Milroe, Nussmeier, and Ewers could all go back to school. Ewers does have more eligibility. He's going to have to transfer if that's the route that he goes because Arch Manning is going to take his job. It's going to be Dylan Gabriel and Jackson Arnold in Oklahoma all over again. But Cam Ward and Shador are already in the draft class. They've accepted invites to all-star games. I think Cam Ward is going to the Senior Bowl. Shador Sanders is going to the Shrine Bowl. We know that those two are in this class, but when you have a quarterback class with only two players that you know for sure are declaring, it doesn't feel good. And quite frankly, they're not the best prospects in the world when you stack them up across classes that we've seen recently. Even if you think they're good and can have high ceilings, I don't think that this quarterback class is really anything to write home about at this moment.
Yeah, a lot of projects left. So, and really, only 2 out of these 6 are pretty much guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. 1 has a chance, maybe 2, and Milroe and Ward. So we get less time to evaluate and less of those big moments to where you can increase that draft stock. Like you said, Aller and Ewers, 2 guys that really need to show some more to cement themselves as first-round picks. And they have the opportunity to do it this week and the next couple of weeks in the playoffs.
And they also have the opportunity to just fall off.
Go back to school.
Go back to school.
Yeah.
I mean, we could see Ewers get benched in a game against Georgia. It wouldn't shock me to see like Arch Manning come in.
Already happened.
Yeah, I mean, it already happened once, and Groundhog Day of like, what the heck is this? And that's really where it's at with those guys. When we're looking at the running back class, this is where it gets kind of fun from a prospect perspective, but from an NFL free agents, here's the top guys. Nick Chubb, we've kind of mentioned him when we're talking about guys that could come back to their team. Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Emmanuel Wilson. So it does get. The drop-off does go quick. I mean, Rico Dowdle's out there, possibly Madison, some of these guys. Javonte, I mean, I think he's at negative average the last like 6 games or whatever it is. Like, he hasn't looked good. Honestly, the guy that even when I wrote about in my column last week that I said would probably set the market for these guys is probably Najee Harris. I don't know what the market's going to be, but like, it's not great, but there are guys that will produce. Like, if they find a role, like we've seen Najee do it. Chubb, Aaron Jones has been fine, this year when we've seen him there. Dobbins just can't stay healthy. I think that's the big thing. But, Randy, I know you're a Browns guy. Chubb, I mean, all accounts looks like Chubb's leaving, but I know you think he's coming back. I mean, he hasn't looked good off the injury.
He's had his good days and bad out there. He's still in that recovery process too, is the worst part. I don't think we really see Chubb even close back to form until next year, and that's really the issue. I do think he comes back and a little bit of a hometown discount. The Browns did a lot to work with him to make sure he got his money, but not cut him and keep him on the books and kind of pay it forward and, thank you for what you've done kind of thing. So I do think he's a huge locker room guy for the Browns as well. I know that running back isn't necessarily the position that's the biggest value, but Chubb is really a tone setter as a silent leader. So I would be shocked, I guess, if they let him go, especially because I don't think he's going to demand a huge salary with injury history, age. I just think he'll come back in a decent deal. And honestly, a little bit the same with Aaron Jones with Minnesota. I think he's been a true value to that offense besides the fumbles. But through the passing game and running game, I think he's been really good. And they just need a better complementary piece with him. And then, like you said, Najee Harris is the younger guy, a power back, but a bit of a plotter to an extent. So I think if Jalen Warren was healthy all year, I think we wouldn't have a question mark if he was staying or going, but that's kind of the issue.
Grain of salt here because it's Pro Football Focus and they're grading. We can question it a little bit. But who among this group do you think has the best PFF run grade?
Well, just because of the way you said that, I'm going to guess Emmanuel Wilson of the 6.
Yeah, it's him. He's inside the top 10. So I do think that the Packers would want to keep that Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson duo together. But this year has been a Marshawn Lloyd injury-ridden year, so they could look at that as like, oh, we've kind of got that with Marshawn Lloyd. We just drafted him, and then Emmanuel Wilson finds himself in a decent role. That's why he made this list. He's been really good when he's out there, but overall, Aaron Jones, he had one of those like started off really hot, and you can tell he's just he's been a little banged up, and so he's kind of fallen off there. I still think he's probably the best running back here. Maybe Dobbins probably when healthy, Chubb maybe when healthy. This isn't a terrible class though.
Why do you hate Najee Harris?
Are you talking to Randy or me?
Both of you probably. But I mean he's been fine this year. 820, 24 yards, 4 touchdowns. I know he's a plotter. Okay. I know he is that, but I mean, he's looked good enough and he's even catching the ball more this year. 37 targets. That's what he is, right? Like, I know he's 26. I know he's going into this, but I do think that a team's going to look at him and say, maybe we can get some Joe Mixon years out of him. I think Joe Mixon's better as a prospect, better as a player. But I think he'll be the guy in this class.
Because there hasn't really been injury history and he's the youngest. I agree. It's just, it's not like last year's class where we have like 3 or 4 guys like, okay, this is going to reset the market a bit. This is going to be like, all right, so for an average starter, this will be the new market.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Or a vet on a good deal kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh. I can talk about Najee Harris and why I don't like him for a long time, honestly, but he has looked good at times this year. I will say, like, he's a streaky runner. I think
he gets what was Barkley's contract? What did he get?
Oh, Lord.
I don't even know off the top of my head. 13 million, 14 million guaranteed.
I want to say 14 million.
So I would expect Najee to get 6 to 8, like in that range. And I don't even know like what the full guarantee would be, maybe 14 overall. So like when I say set the market, I'm not talking like big money. I just think that these guys, he could get something out there.
I think that's the issue too, because I think some people view him as like more of a Josh Jacobs where he can eat up the carries, and that's why the Packers wanted him. And that's not Najee Harris.
No.
He needs a split backfield.
Yeah.
Saquon's contract was 26 million guaranteed, so I think the first 2 years, so 13 million. Okay. It's about 13 million per year. 3 years, 37.75.
Looks like a bargain at this point. Shout out Saquon because he could be MVP there. All right, let's flip over to prospects. We gave it an A grade. I think it's just depth when you're looking overall. Christian gave it an A. We gave it A minuses, but I couldn't find the A- graphic. So we have Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson, Quinshaw Judkins there, Travion Henderson, Amari Hampton, Nicholas Singleton. Those are the top guys. But if you want to go through it, you go check out the big board that I did on a channel. On the YouTube channel. I kind of went in depth there. We've done kind of rankings at that position. It is definitely deep. There's a lot of great prospects on a lot of different sides in terms of what their skill sets are, pass catchers, throw down backs, power backs. You have the 3 down guys that I think are getting slept on a little bit, like the 2 Ohio State guys. I know that, people are going to say production and all of those things, but when you come down to it and when they crush it at the combine, I'm telling you, like, these teams are going to like these guys. Caleb Johnson's getting first round buzz. I think he went in Brugler's mock today. I think he went top 32. So like you're thinking these guys, there's definitely guys, and obviously Ashton is the top guy there. But yes, this is probably, would you guys say this is the best position based on grades? Pretty defensive line's close. I would say defensive line, but running backs are top 3 in terms of like the depth and the value there, which is gonna be funny because the way the NFL now values running backs, it's gonna be fun to see how high these guys get drafted, how many get drafted day 1 or day 2.
Exactly. Do we get 1? Do we get 2?
Yeah.
Or do we not get 1? We only get the 1, and then we get not that many in the second too, because they know there's a bunch, so they go in the late second, early third.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird.
Well, that's the other thing. We don't know who all is declaring, but like, would I rather RJ Harvey in the 4th round or pay Najee Harris $11 million per year or something like that? And it's like, yeah, give me RJ Harvey. So then I think I think this class is simply just going to hurt the free agent class. And I think a lot of those guys are going to end up taking like 1-year type of deals where they might still be in a committee, because every single NFL team should take a running back in this class. That's how deep it is. It's just loaded.
And so it's a polar opposite from last year, where the free agent class was an A and the draft was like a C grade. And now we have a decent to good free agent class and a great running back class.
Kevin's laughing because he knows the Cowboys aren't going to draft a running
They're
back.
not going to draft one. They're just.
Is that why you're laughing?
Yeah.
Listen, that Caleb Johnson Rico Dowdle pairing is going to be electric.
No, they're going to freaking bring back Rico, get Najee, and just roll it back. That's what's going to happen. They're not even going to draft a running back. That's why I laugh, because I'm like, yeah, this is a perfect draft to get a guy like Devin Neal in the 4th round, and he could be a 3-down guy for you, and then get another guy in the 6th round. But no, they won't. They'll kick the tires and Dowdle and Najee, and I'll just be depressed forever. Like, it's just one of those things. All right, let's go over to wide receiver.
$8 million.
Yeah. Oh God. I swear, if that comes true, I'm going to Ohio. Or no, you don't live in Ohio. You live in Indiana, right? I'm going to go to Indiana.
Wisconsin.
It's all the same shit, okay? Like, anything, listen, in the Midwest,
you're right.
I was there one time, and as I was driving through each state, I'm like, these things are not different. I don't know what is happening. It's just green, and then you have really nice nice rest stops. Like, and I was like, this is it. And then I just pay tolls. Everywhere you go is a toll in the Midwest.
That's right.
I get somewhere, buddy.
I'm not arguing.
Okay.
I drive 7 hours to get home every time, man.
See, this is ridiculous. And then, I could go on a tangent for days. The Midwest drives me absolutely crazy. I'd be going to Illinois looking for Randy's house in Wisconsin and be like, I swear to God, this is a house I saw. Like, I don't know what's happening.
It was right there.
It was right there. It looks the damn same. And, buddy, no, it's somebody else answering the door. All right. Wide receivers, we've dived into this. I think these are kind of at our draft grade. The prospects grade, we gave a C+, but the free agents, we gave a B-. Really, I think it's buoyed by T. Higgins, because I think the idea is that's a true wide receiver 1 there. When you have also Chris Godwin. I mean, the problem with these other guys, they're either kind of hefty, like Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs and Godwin coming off the injury. Amari Cooper he's Amari Cooper. I really don't know what else to say about Amari Cooper. Like, he's been the same guy for like years. I mean, he's consistent, but at the same time, like, can you trust him to be that wide receiver 1? Deontay Johnson's just free falling through the cracks. I don't know what's going on there. We still have DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks, Hollywood Brown. A sneaky guy that I like is Demarcus Robinson. We didn't include him on the graphic, but a lot of guys that are just kind of there. I think it is buoyed by T. To me, T and Chris Godwin on the gets in this one. Like, I still trust Godwin. I think he's young enough there. Christian, where are you leaning here in terms of this class?
It's a fine class. I do expect a few of those guys to go back to their teams. Keenan Allen has been effective at times throughout this year, so like, I think he can offer something. Diggs looked good before the injury, but you're kind of a little worried about that. Deontay Johnson's getting suspended for insubordination, like he's in elementary school. It's insane. He just was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going in the game to play the thing that I'm paid to play. So Deontay Johnson's been doing that for like 3 years now, though. So I don't think his market's going to be up there. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is also on the list. Hollywood Brown could have a nice little surge at the end of the season here. Darius Slayton's like a sneaky good name that he's been effective for the Giants for years, and I think can offer a team something. I assume he'll go to the Chiefs and do good things there or something like that. But overall, this class, like, you're going to get some bargain bin guys like down at the bottom, and I think that helps this class, but definitely buoyed by Higgins and Godwin. I expect Godwin will go back, though, so then it's like Higgins is the prize, and then it's a bunch of depth.
Yep, and Higgins is probably either like a Bengal or a Patriot. It's one of those, he's just going back and continuing, or going to get the biggest bag possible.
The Patriots are throwing the bag. When I dived into the free agent class and I kept going through like all the beat reporters and looking kind of like all I saw was Patriots, and all the dudes are like, they're going after guy. They try to get Ayuk. They try to get these guys. I mean, they try to get Higgins at a certain point, and I think Higgins wants the contract. Like, he's going to go get his money, and his agents talked about it as well. And I just don't see the Bengals being able to get that. I don't see it getting it done. Like, they can barely get the Chase deal done. They haven't even got that done yet. And so they might look at Higgins and kind of being expendable there. And they have a lot of – they got to get some pieces on that defense. Like, and I think they're going to look at it and be like, that's an expendable area there. But when he goes to the Patriots, I'm just going to be like, here we go. I mean, I like him in May, but hopefully they shore up that offensive line. As far as like the prospects, we did give him a C+. We got Ted McMillan, Travis Hunter. What is he in terms of like his position? Luther Burden are kind of considered a top 2-ish, 3. Emeka Egbuka's there, Isaiah Bond, Trey Harris. And I guess when you go through all of the wide receivers, you can see why it is a C+, because there's guys. I think Tet is a legitimate top 10 guy. Luther could be, depending on his spot. I think Luther's spot is going to be very important there. But overall, it's fine class, but I do think that there's some limitations to its ceiling. Randy, is that where you're at with the wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, I gave the highest grade, and I think that's counting Travis Hunter, obviously.
Yeah.
And Ted McMillan, like you said, is just a lock of a monster of a person. And then I like Luther Burden. We all like Emeka Egbuka. Isaiah Bond shows good things, just needs to flesh it out. And then we have other guys, Trey Harris, like you said, A.O. Manor, Restrepo, Evan Stewart, Higgins. The list kind of goes on. And there's going to be more that pop at these, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine, that I think we're going to be able to have enough of a fleshed out class with a top heavy, a good 4 going in the first. And like, we know Egbuka is going to be a starter day one and make an impact. And we know McMillan's going to be a star. So it's stuff like that I have it a little bit higher. But it's not, it'd be one thing. I think this is like a B+ if we knew Hunter was playing wide receiver and Burden actually showed out this year and Bond was a complete player this year. There's a few things that we still needed to happen, and hey, still can.
Yeah, there are some guys that I like in the later rounds, intriguing guys at the very least. Like, I think a Ty Felton is an intriguing guy. He's been really productive out there. Jalen Royals is a guy that probably is going to start to get some more buzz. I think he's on the All-Star game circuit as well. Ricky White is a guy that I kind of like. Jaden Higgins, I do really like, but I say that I like them, but I think they have like clear roles at the NFL level. Like, this isn't a class that you're going to get a Dontavian Wicks on day 3. I think this is a class that you're going to get a player lesser than Wicks that can be a starter for you, but isn't going to be the most impactful player. So I'm intrigued to see who all declares. I think that'll clear some things up too. There's some guy like Dane Key. I don't know if he's declaring, and if he does, I do like this class a little bit more and things like that. But it's not my favorite wide receiver class, if I'm being honest. This is and I think it's because we've been spoiled with so many good classes right back to back to back, where I can't remember the last time I stopped a wide receiver list at like 5, and then I was like, yeah, and then I could take it or leave it.
I mean, honestly, if Isaiah Bond doesn't come out, which I don't know if he will, it might be 4 for me. And it's like, after that, you can plug and fill them in wherever you want there. I'm on the same page as you. And I think the inconsistency for some of these guys, like Emeka, he's been inconsistent. We like him. I think he has. But, I mean, you can't do what you get with Michigan. Like, you need to be the guy. You're a senior. You need to produce. That might have been a Will Howard thing.
To be fair,
I'm not going to. Yes, I know.
Ryan Day taking over play calling. It's a whole fun time. Can't wait for him to come back and kick kickers, but here we go.
It is what it is there, but yeah, the consistency there. I understand the lower grade there. From a tight end perspective, free agents. I don't know how much we don't really need to talk about the free agents. I'm just gonna list through it. D- we gave them because we don't like give Fs on this show. But Tyler Conklin, Austin Hooper, Mike Gesicki, probably the best one. Tommy Trimble, Zach Ertz, Harrison Bryant. In my opinion, it's gross. And I think that's going to prop up. So I keep hearing this conversation out there about these tight ends in the class. So for the top prospects, we have Colston Leveland. We gave it a B. Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin Jr., Mason Taylor, if he declares, Eli Stowers, Gunnar Helm. There are other tight ends out there, but I keep hearing this like thing about, hey, the class after Loveland, Warren, and possibly Fannin, they couldn't have impact guys, whatever. But I think teams are going to need tight ends just based on the free agent market out there. So we could see some other guys drafted and pop up there. Terrence Ferguson comes to mind from Oregon. But what's your just general thoughts about both of these classes, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of stated it. The free agency is rough. I mean, Conklin's been disappointing with some big games. Yeah. Austin Hooper's been a good tight end too for the Patriots. Gesicki has stepped up, but really that offense has been desperate for a tight end forever. And with the injuries with Chase and Higgins and everyone kind of be in and out of the lineup and no running game, they've needed a tight end to step up. Tommy Tremble's been a disappointment. Zach Ertz is way too old to get a lot of money. Harrison Bryant on the list is hilarious. Juwan Johnson, I think, has some upside, but we've seen the some upside every year and hasn't really flourished.
Never comes to fruition, man. It sucks.
I mean, if they didn't just sign Derek Carr's boys like Foster Monroe, he would be killing it. But
that's true.
Derek Carr trusts people and loves them and throws them to them every time. He's already in love with MVS. So that's kind of the thing. And like you said, I think we got 2 to 3, we have 2 guaranteed studs, I'd say. And then we have 2 to 3 guys that could really show out and really impress throughout this remainder of the process. And then I think we have a good amount of quality, tight end 2s, tight end 3s for the league, at least for the start, and then become 2s or 1s. And that's very valuable when you have a class like this for free agency. We need to get some of these veterans out of these big contracts and just get some of these rookies on there to make some impact. Because, I mean, it's the same thing. Like Grant Calcaterra was buried on a depth chart for years and is starting to make an impact finally. Now, it's been a little bit of Goddard injuries, but when he's out there anyways, he's making an impact. And that was a guy in a class like this where he was farther down the list and just bought his time, continued to progress. We had other ones like that, like Quentin Morris, that haven't really done anything, but I think this class is going to breed some important tight ends in a few years.
That's a really good way of putting it. I tend to agree. I mean, I think Mason Taylor declaring would certainly help. I think this is a really good pass catching tight end group.
Yeah.
When you look up and down, I don't like Gunnar Helm. I'm just going to be honest. I don't see it. People are talking about him as tight end 1 through 3. And I don't think he's athletic enough, but I think he's a reliable chain mover. Potentially he can catch the ball pretty well. You've got Luke Lachey, who the production hasn't really been there, but it's Iowa. So I think he's going to be a better NFL player than he was a college player. Rivaldo Fairweather's a kind of deeper name that he had a lot of buzz, and I think he can catch the ball pretty well. Aronde Gadsden, I don't really like him all as much as maybe consensus does, but he can catch the ball too. He's got a wide receiver build. Elijah Arroyo is kind of similar in that regard, where I think there's some guys that can catch passes, and guys that can catch passes from the tight end position, that gives teams flexibility and versatility to get them on the field doing creative things. So I think we're going to see some impact players from this group. Terrence Ferguson is a guy I didn't even mention that I think could be a starter at the NFL level. So a lot of guys in this class where I see a lot of upside. It's just they'll need to continue improving, and they'll need to go to a landing spot that's willing to do those things with them.
Yeah, I want to touch on what Randy said too, when he's talking about kind of hey, the depth pieces are there and all of those things. There's also depth pieces from last year's class that haven't really played much yet. Ben Sinnott from Washington, they could just be hey, that's going to be our guy, moving forward. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think Jatavian's kind of taken over clearly as that tight end 1 for Carolina. Theo Johnson was banged up. He was injured, but they like him a lot. And I think that he could be the guy for the Giants. Eric All was injured again. Maybe Cincinnati's we like what we saw from him. He had a couple of those games where hey, they're explosive there. Even you guys know I hate Ohio State tight ends, but Cade Stover possibly he's out there. Jared Wiley, TCU guy that people really like going in there with Kansas City. So those guys too are also something to note that from last year's class, they're still developing. They're still progressing there. So I think that may be where you see kind of where we have those top guys. There is depth there, but maybe they're just hey, we like the guys that we drafted last year too. And I thought it was a good class last year. I thought the tight end class was pretty deep last year. All right, let's go to interior offensive line. Let's get to the big uglies. All right, so let's get in here and start talking about it. So top free agents out here: Mekhi Becton, Zach Martin, Ryan Kelly, James Daniels, Austin Corbett, Trey Smith. We gave him a B. What I'm surprised. I don't know. Who if you had to pick here, Christian, of these guys, who's your top guy in this class? Top free agent.
Randy, who do you think my guy is?
It's number 6, Trey Smith.
It's Trey Smith. Trey Smith
And
has been
he
awesome for the
is.
Chiefs. Yeah, he's improved a ton since his draft class, but he's going to get a bag from Kansas City. Kansas City is going to have to start to look at how they can give him a bag, because they desperately need to keep the good parts of that offensive line together. So that's where I think if he doesn't hit this class, it might look a little bit different. I think Ryan Kelly's kind of on the back end of his career. Same thing with Zach Martin. Austin Corbett has played really well this year. James Daniels has been good as well. I think he'll probably return to Pittsburgh as well. Mekhi Becton kind of reclaimed his career this year with the Eagles moving into guard, where he's been pretty dominant for them at guard. I think in theory he hits the market, but in practice, I think the Philadelphia says, yeah, he was awesome, and we have Saquon Barkley still, so we're going to re-sign Mekhi Becton. So then you start to look at it, and it's like, well, maybe there's not that much in this class. I think there's some depth, like Aaron Banks is a guy, Bradley Bozeman's still out there. Dalton Reisner hasn't really had a good year. Tevin Jenkins didn't make this list, but he's had a decent year. Coleman Shelton for the Bears, he's also been pretty good, but this class has, as with most interior offensive line classes, it's guys that you're hoping can be starters for you, but I don't see a lot of locked in starters here.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few. But we
Which is
know, we know Trey Smith is going to set the market. There's some tackles, we'll get to that are going to have some decent upside, but I think the biggest thing that I'm curious how it's going to shake out is the center position, like you said, with like Ryan Kelly and a couple. I mean, I guess Corbett is in there. Herbig can kind of do a little bit of both. Shelton, Tevin Jenkins might get a good amount of money, which might be crazy, but it's clearly Trey Smith is the big fish. James Daniels probably next. Becton probably next. Other of the vets are probably all staying just because of how it's kind of shaping out. I think Zach Martin retires. Sure, if I think stay, you go down the list and it's like, well, okay, we have some upside centers in this class, guys I like. We'll get to in a second, and that's where I'm curious how the value is going to shake out for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the prospects, I mean, we're around that B range too. Tyler Booker is a guy that we all like. I think that he's in there. Gray Zabel is a guy that has risen up boards. I think I've seen a first round now, pretty much a lot of places. Donovan Jackson, Luke Handra, Logan Jones, Tate Ratledge. The one that I think is kind of interesting, I've been seeing some positive from Donovan Jackson. Like it's weird because like you get a lot of like. He's good. Athleticism is key. Like for him, they talk about there, the play strength and all of that. The one that always scares me is like footwork. Like I see that as a negative, like in everybody's kind of stuff. And they talk about that, but he goes to the right team. I think this is it's a fun class in terms of like, there's some depth pieces there. There's some starters here. Like there's some guys that can plug and play and start on an offensive line. And there's going to be value. I don't think these guys are going to draft that high. And I think that they can definitely plug and play, and they're going to need to because offensive line play in the NFL is always bad, like in injuries and they occur there. Who's your favorite, Randy, of this group?
I feel like I haven't seen enough of Gray Zabel to put him there, but I think the versatility is going to rise him up.
Yeah.
Logan Jones is probably my favorite, mainly because he's a center, and I think we had a good influx of center free agents last year. They got a lot.
You love centers. Randy's like a love child of centers.
I do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, I played every position on the line. Not great at any of them, but I always studied everything, and being the center is so very difficult. But being the leader and setting all the blocks and everything, I love having a guy that I know he come in and really take that off of the quarterback's just shoulders in general. And Logan Jones has been able to dominate at that. And I think Jonah Monheim is versatile and can kind of move around like that. And obviously, I think Zabel's going to end up being the best center in the draft, but he's going to test at all three positions basically. But it's got to be Logan Jones. And I think, Christian's favorite is going to be Booker. I think Luke Kendra is up there for that as well. It's just two guys you're going to put at right guard, and they could be all pros for 10 years. I think they're just quality starters day one.
That's my main thing with this class is there's starters up and down the board. Like people are going to get upset with how high I have all these interior offensive linemen on the big board because like I'm looking at it now, and it's like Booker hasn't even had a good year, so maybe the production grade doesn't push him super high. I think his film is much better than how he's grading, and what would go into our production grade. Donovan Jackson, it's tough to even give him a production grade because he's been playing some left tackle for Ohio State, which I think that's where a lot of the footwork things come. When I was watching him as a guard, I had concerns about his footwork. Then he kicked out to left tackle and went against like Penn State, I think. I mean, that was the big one. I think Penn State probably has better edge rushers than Michigan, and Donovan Jackson held his own at left tackle. And so then I was like, oh, well, if he's got the footwork, the foot speed to keep edges off of Will Howard, then I think he'll be fine as a guard. I do have some concerns with some of his film, but this class to me is just loaded with guys that will infuse the NFL with positive offensive line play, which is really, really necessary right now.
Yeah, I think Gray's able right now is looking like the only first round potential, like what we're looking at. But we're gonna have a lot of day 2 darlings and early day 3 guys that are just gonna eat up positions. I mean, just instantly becoming starters or winning the battles. And we had a good class of interior last year, so a lot of versatile guys. And I think this year we have a couple versatile, and then some really like stalwarts at a position started for 4 years.
Gosh, I get so warm and fuzzy when we talk about day 2 values, and we're back, baby. We are here, like darlings. We're throwing out darlings. Like I love it because that's when you know the sickos. Because if you're watching this and listening to this, you're a sicko. Like that's just And we like those. We like those sickos. That's what we do there. I mean, and to your point, Christian, I was going through Donovan Jackson right now, looking at his PFF grades. He graded pretty well against he did okay against Penn State. But Purdue, he looked pretty good in pass blocking. You saw Northwestern. He's held his own, and I think that's like the positive. Like it's not perfect, but he's definitely held his own there. When you're talking about the guy.
But a guard kicking out typically is going to be better against more of a power rusher, and Penn State is definitely more speed rusher. So to have a good passing grade is very good for Donovan Jackson.
Could have been worse. Based on what he
could have been Evan Neal. Just turn around watching.
Yeah, that's what Evan Neal does and has done since Alabama. But let's draft him top 10, idiots.
Hey.
But he's
you're good with it, Kevin.
As a Cowboys fan, you keep doing what you're doing, Giants. You keep swinging and missing on those tackles. Let's talk about the tackles. Let's get into that. That's a good segue there. Free agencies. Woo! I will say from a free agent class here, the tackles are pretty bad. We gave it a D grade. Ronnie Stanley, Cam Robinson, Garrett Bowles, Tyron Smith, Jedrick Willis, Dan Moore Jr. I don't know. Nothing really stands out to me as like getting top money and going out there and grabbing these guys. Randy, do you see anybody in this in terms of the tackle position that you're like a team might take a shot
on? Garrett Bowles. When we're early in this process, we were talking about like, well, you can get rid of him and bring in a new one and reset your tackle money market really because they're expensive on the offensive line right now. But he's just been very dominant this year. Obviously, a lot of penalties this last week and all his career, but that's really his only downfall. I mean, he's been very good. Cam Robinson, the big thing with this free agent class is it's old and disappointing. Like either are very old or you're disappointing. So like Jedrick Wills, Andrews Pete, honestly, Cam Robinson, Ronnie Stanley, Garrett Bowles, Tyron Smith, even Dan Moore to an extent. It's just old.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we had to put Isaiah Wynn on here is just funny. Dylan Radin's deep on our list, a guy that's better as a guard. It's a weird class. Like I don't think Jedrick Wills has stayed around in Cleveland. I don't know who's giving him that much money. He's going to be signed as a depth tackle 3. Joe Noteboom should get some money. It's a lot of the vets, I think, are just going to stick around where they're at because they're not going to get any more money from anyone else. So why keep moving around?
Yeah. Ronnie Stanley's had a good year for what it's worth. Like I could have made an argument that Baltimore needed 2 tackles. Now I think they're going to re-sign Stanley and need 1 tackle probably. But I mean, it's only been okay. And I think there have been moments of dominance that we haven't really seen a whole lot of from Stanley over the last couple of years, but now it's kind of evened out to be just fine performances. And really, he's been good as a pass blocker, but some of the run blocking stuff has been inflated by Derrick Henry being so good. So it's not a good class. It's just not. And there's no like Bowles will probably get paid, and I think he's on this list. I think it's just the void in his contract. I think he technically has one more year, but Denver probably won't even exercise that at this point because he has been so good. So it's a pretty rough class.
Yeah, it's just with his void years, it's cratered onto this next year is the money problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and from a prospect standpoint, we give a B-, but Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks Jr., Josh Simmons, Ariante Ursary, Wyatt Millam, Josh Cornerly, those guys. Like, did I mess that up or did I get it?
No, that was good.
I smiled because he left off some of the harder names, and I find it funny.
Oh well, hey, that's because he's my guy. That's how we handle this. I will say this in terms of the tackle position of the prospects. There's just some tweeners in here. Like there's some guys that we don't know or where they're going to play, what the NFL is going to look at and be like, hey, Campbell, you're going to be a guard instead of a tackle. I don't know what the need's going to be out there. I think the need is big for tackles. I mean, the Patriots obviously going to be drafting top 5. What do they think of these guys? I think is going to be in there. I think Wyatt's the one that's getting a little bit of buzz. I think that, he's a big guy, 6'6", 317. His pass blocking grade's been pretty good, 89.7 this year. And even against Penn State, he had a 79.9 pass blocking grade. I try to look at teams that have good pass rush when I go through the grades and see kind of how he's done, but pretty consistent throughout. I mean, he's looked really, really well. That might be a tackle guy that goes late first just based on need. I see him kind of bouncing around there day 2, especially, but who knows? But I think the tackle class is fine. I just think there's a lot of tweeners in here.
There are. I mean, even Kelvin Banks is getting. Dane Brugler labeled him as tackle guard in his latest mock draft, and I mean, I don't see a good enough run blocker to kick into guard. I just don't. I mean, I see the strength, the athleticism, the things that could help you succeed there. But I get it because some of the tackle play has been a little iffy at times, and I know he's grading really well as a pass blocker, but I think. With the concerns, I don't have concerns about either Campbell or Banks playing tackle personally. I know a lot of people do. If you're talking about that, I think the best just tackle, no matter what prospect in this class is Josh Simmons from Ohio State. And there's a question mark there because he got a season-ending injury and won't be able to test. And so I have seen that most people expect he'll go first round still and maybe even top 20 still because of how good it was beforehand. But there's a lot of questions about this class, I think, here.
Yep. We can't even really say it's top heavy just because Will Campbell hasn't risen to the level he should have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No. And that's a good point. I think beginning of the season, a lot of people had this tackle class being pretty high, but they didn't pan out. So it's always on the expectation that they're going to perform very well. They just haven't. And you've seen a lot of guys kind of drop off. And I think that's really the part of it when you're talking about it. All right, let's get over to defense. Let's kind of wrap up this second part of the show here. We're going to be talking about defenses, prospects and everything there. Top free agents, at defensive tackles, Milton Williams, DJ Jones, Mike Pennell. Tara Tart, Osa
Odigizua.
Thank you. Jaron Reed. So thanks for that. It's like alley-oop is the Dwayne Wade of LeBron in the Miami days. We'll be doing that a lot here on the show, just to kind of as we get through these names. Where are you at with these defensive tackles? Because from a top prospects perspective, and it's probably good just to combine them. I'm at an A. We're at an A with this. We've been talking about this class as the defensive tackles being one of the strongest probably in the class. Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Tyreek Williams, Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders. And that's just to name some. Like, you're going to have very good deep position here in the second round, third round of these guys. So overall, what's your general take, Christian, on this class as a whole, the free agents or even the prospects?
So the free agent was like Milton Williams is the big get. He has taken a massive step forward. I remember when they were kind of shaping it up so that he was their DT3 and DT4 at times, but he was just a guy that needed some time. And quite frankly, I loved his film back when he was in school. So I'm glad to see it, but he is the massive get. And I think he's priced himself out of returning to Philadelphia. So I think that's a major acquisition. But then after that, I think I would prefer just drafting one super high and taking one of these defensive tackles. Everyone knows I love Walter Nolan. Mason Graham has really, really come on strongly over the last few weeks. He was absolutely dominant against Ohio State. It was sickening how bad the Ohio State offensive line was, just from a program perspective. I think if you're an Ohio State fan, you should be very worried about the state of that program, but he's been dominant. Kenneth Grant is one of those guys that's never going to be super productive, but he does the dirty things, and it's really fun to watch. Derek Harmon's getting buzzed as potential like DT2 by some I've seen. I love Tyleek Williams. I think he had a good game against Michigan for what it's worth. TJ Sanders, but the list goes on, like Deion Walker, Dante Corleone, Omar Norman Law. Alfred Collins is a guy that I think could work his way into the first round. In fact, Dame Brugler put him at the back of his first round mock today. So that's exciting to see. But this defensive tackle class is inarguably the best one I've ever seen in my 6, 7, I don't know how long I've been doing this. Many years of doing this, I have never seen a defensive tackle class like this.
He's been doing this since he had hair, ladies and gentlemen. So
that's
he's been
right.
doing it for a while.
Oh,
no, Randy.
Damn, I was gonna lie. I never really had hair.
No, and it's crazy how good. I still think the free agent class is good, even though we've had a couple of the big dogs like Amuzarike and a few others get their money already.
Yeah.
So that's really. But it's Milton Williams, Odigizua is pretty good, and then I think we have a lot of quality veteran D tackle twos, run stoppers, and I think that's good because we don't have a ton of those like run stopping D tackles in this draft class necessarily. We have a good amount, but we have a lot of just killer D tackles more than just like pure run stoppers. So I think we're going to get a lot of great pairings of some teams going to sign a couple vets and draft Mason Graham and just have the best interior in the league. This is going to be a really fun year.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Mason Graham is one of my favorite players ever, just from his Michigan days. I'll tell you what, that kid is. This is gonna sound bad, but he's a football player, man. Like he just lines up and he can platoon a defense. Like I really think he can do that moving forward too.
Do you want to know something cool? So it's probably not cool to anyone else but me, but I started putting production grades in. Especially for the Michigan players that I don't think will be playing in the bowl game that they barely made. But
hey, come on, we made one, baby. That's all that matters.
They got 7 wins actually. Mason Graham ended up being a blue player for me, so he's currently a Pro Bowl slotted. 85 out of 100 is the blue player. He is my 4th blue player in this class right now, behind still Walter Nolan, still ahead of him, but after putting in production, Mason Graham is right up there as one of the best defensive tackles that I've seen. So,
yeah, Mason Graham's not sexy, but he is someone that a defense can definitely rely on, and I think a defensive coordinator smart can utilize his skill set and really kind of build a defense around him too. Like I really think that. I think that he's a top 10 guy. I know that people are going to say Michigan defensive lineman because of some of the misses, but as long as the Cowboys don't draft him, he's fine. I think he can be he's going to be a great player. He's a Pro Bowl type caliber player. So that's fine. As long as the Michigan guy doesn't get drafted by the Cowboys, we're going to be just fine there. When we look at edge, when you go to the edge rushers, man, top free agents here, people don't know this because they're not in the show sheet right now. Christian got an incomplete on this because he didn't give us grades because he was busy. So me and Randy shored this up. So D-, top free agents there: Khalil Mack, DeMarcus Lawrence, Matthew Judon, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. To me, it's just the oldish prospects that just I just don't see it. But from a top prospects perspective, we gave it a B. We got Abdul Carter, Nick Scorton, Michael Williams, James Pierce, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green. Like there are some good edge guys in this class too. I think if you need an edge, I think teams. I don't know why you'd waste your money on free agents. In my opinion, and just go after the prospects if you have to. Are you leaning that way too, Christian?
Yeah, I think that's where there's like a big difference in the defensive tackle class, the running back class, even, where there are some okay free agents where you could justify paying someone and still drafting someone. For this edge class, to me, it's you draft one and you just kind of ignore these top free agents. Khalil Mack has had a good year. Brandon Graham has had a really awesome year. I think he's still really good. And outside of that, like, I don't know. Does DeMarcus Lawrence even play for that team? Like every time I watch the Cowboys over the last like 2 years, even, I feel like he's not noticeable. And Matthew Judon has had moments, Josh Sweat has had moments, but to me, the depth of this defensive end class is crazy. It goes far beyond the 6 players that are listed here too. There's the 2 Ohio State guys. There's Princely Umamielen. There's Landon Jackson, LT Overton. There's just a ton of guys that I think can be impact players and even starters as rookies. So yeah, I'm ignoring free agents. I'm saving my money there.
Yeah, I felt like, last free agents or last edge rushers from the draft, we had a couple really good up at the top. We had some upside guys, and it did really feel like we were like, okay, this guy, from Eastern Michigan, I think he has a chance to have a good upside. And we were trying to find that after the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, and stuff like that. We're not looking this year. We found every single one of them. And it's one of those, like, if all these guys go out, holy crap, do all these vets lose so much playing time and money. Yep. It's insane.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, from the edge perspective, some of these guys might go back, and so there is like that, but I still don't think you pay out for the free agency. And to your point about DeMarcus Lawrence, listen, he has not been good since like 2018, in my opinion. Like an impact guy, injuries. He's played a couple seasons. He's okay last couple of years. Like 2022, I think he had 6 sacks. Like, yay! Like he has not been an impact guy there. Like I'm not paying him there. From a top prospects perspective, though, I think Abdul Carter could be a top 5 pick. I really do think from a skill set and upside perspective, like I like him. Mykel Williams, I saw him again in Brugler's mock. I think he's 8, 9, somewhere around that range today, top 10 for sure. But this class is fun. I think this edge class is good. I mean, and some of these sleeper guys, Mike Green, some of these other guys that are popping off, I think could make a very big impact here.
I struggle to see how Abdul Carter gets past the Panthers at 5, honestly, unless they decided to go like Will Johnson, Mason Graham. Like it's those 3, I think, in debate, and a couple of them might be gone. Like we don't know exactly what the top of the draft looks like, but the Panthers currently sitting at 5. Like Abdul Carter is gone, I think. So.
Panthers. They're going to take Ashton Jeanty at 5. That's the
fourth running back.
Panthers
Brooks,
way.
Juba Hubbard, Miles Sanders.
They're going to run their wishbone. First team to ever run their wishbone in 2024. Okay. Why we got to take a shot?
He's been good.
Sorry. It was just funny. I'm sorry.
Bryce is coming back. Okay.
He's coming back.
Could you imagine him though back there running like the wing tee? No one could see the ball because he's so tiny. Like they would not know where that thing is at.
Small too.
Yeah, like that would be. Hey, you know what? We're on to something. Hey, hire us, Tepper. Like you got plenty of money to burn.
I take it back. We do not want to work for David Tepper.
Could you imagine? I'd get fired in like a day because Tepper would say something to me. I'm like, listen here, you bald asshole. Okay, I hate to break it to you. Like this is not going. And then I'd be done.
Your two's temper, like your guys' tempers cannot work with him. For
sure.
No. I'd just be sort of like, come on, guys, come on. Like, this is a good job. Just sort of like, please, guys, shut up.
Randy's like, oh, come on, guys, just suck it up.
We're never get this chance again.
We wouldn't, and then but we're like that. That guy that says he's a scout, but he was never a scout on social media. We could be that. We'd be like, hey, former GM of Carolina Panthers, this is what we think. Right. Could you imagine it? Like Mike Lombardi's been doing it for years. He says he's the greatest GM in everybody's mind.
That's true. That is true.
We're just taking shots at everybody. We're never gonna get a job offer anywhere.
That's a good thing we all have them. So,
well, hey. For now, baby. For now. All right. Let's go to the linebackers. I dying at this. I from a free agent perspective, B-. That's where we gave Levante David, Dre Greenlaw, Jerome Baker, Bobby Wagner, Jack Gibbons, Robert, Spillane. I don't know how to say that name. But I was dying at the prospect grades because we all gave it a C. And this is why we gave it a C, everybody, because we don't know. They're all okay. Like we're not 100% sure where these guys are going. We do know Jay Higgins from Iowa. He's got some fun spark in him, especially with the rivalry game when no one would shake his hand. So after they won, he was going around just trying to shake everybody's hand. I like that. Jeffrey Bossa, Chris Paul Jr., Deontay Lawson, Jihad Campbell, Jalen Walker. Like, they could be good. I think there's a lot of question marks there. So from a free agent perspective, this is one of the kind of the rare ones that we have the free agents be a little higher here. Randy, of the free agents, if you had a blank check, who are you going after?
Oh, a blank check is... It's tough for this one. I think Dre Greenlaw minus injuries, has the best resume out of here. Levante David, obviously, like career-wise, was the best one, but
He's
I
70
mean,
years old though, so
yeah, he's been flirting with retirement. Isaiah Simmons has been disappointing, and I don't really think we have. I mean, I want Isaiah Simmons to go to like Minnesota with Flores. I think he could actually figure out how to use him better. Devondre Campbell's been great at times. Baker's starter, I guess. Same with White. Bond, I don't think should leave where he's at because he has done nothing besides play there. EJ Speed's been disappointing. Like, it's just rough. Honestly, Robert Spillane is probably the money bags of this group that people aren't going to be expecting. A guy that's really just taken over the position at the Raiders and played excellently. He's he's making every play. He's making interceptions. He's in every tackle. He's one of those that I think is going to surprise some people with the amount of money he gets.
it's funny because he's going to be the Nicholas Morrow of this free agent class, and Nicholas Morrow is coming off his deal where he got just a stupid amount of money for his quality of play.
When he was playing with the Raiders.
Yep. That's right. Jack Gibbons is my sleeper in this free agent class, where I think he's been pretty good. Just a lot of older guys here. Dre Greenlaw, I'd love to see him off of his injury and see if he recovered. I don't know the history of Achilles for linebackers, but I can't imagine that it's a great injury to have for guys that have to go backward, forward, side to side. Imagine him trying to do the combine drill right now where he's, in coverage. They're moving the football each way. Dre Greenlaw couldn't do that probably right now, and he's pretty far off from his Achilles injury. So I do hope we see a healthy version of him. This prospect class, to me, I would like to make an announcement that I moved Jahai Campbell over Deontay Lawson begrudgingly as
Welcome.
of this weekend. Yeah,
welcome.
I know. Campbell's just I maybe I underestimated how much more athletic he actually is than Deontay Lawson. Lawson's still really athletic, but Campbell's like a different breed. So I like him. I like Chris Paul Jr. a bit. Jalen Walker to me is an edge rusher, so I don't really consider him in this class. And that's, I think, part of the reason why I graded it a little bit lower. I mean, we graded it C's across the board. It's just I don't see the depth towards day 3 that we normally do maybe with linebacker classes. But, I will be the first to admit, I'm still fairly early in my linebacker grading. So maybe we'll find some gems and maybe we'll feel better about this in 2 months.
Listen, I'm just gonna be happy wherever Danny Stutzman and Jay Higgins go. That's all I really care about.
Together, that would be awesome.
It'd be
so fun.
One of the least athletic linebacking cores.
It would be pretty bad. Actually.
We weren't running at the middle. You better go to the side, and they'll get over there. They'll make a play, but if it's up the middle, you're screwed.
I would love to see those guys kind of go lateral, see how long it takes. Remember the sports science show they used to have on ESPN? Let's see how many they could go laterally there. My favorite part of the segment is Christian saying that he graded lower than us, but we had the same grade, and he really had his sports marketing degree on full display there, sports management.
Yeah, get it right. Management, not marketing.
All right, my bad. Sorry, my bad, pickleball master. Okay, I did not mean to step on your toes.
We almost failed that class.
Yeah. That's a story for a different pod.
We missed too many.
Jahai Campbell, like I said, Randy accused me of just going for the favorites when I picked him against the LSU game. And he had 2 sacks. He's had 4 sacks since then. He's looked really good. I think that he flies around. I mean, that's where you saw the assisted tackles and everything there. I'm really interested to see what he does if they get in the playoff and see kind of how he does, because I think if he has a good playoff, I mean, he's a solid prospect. I think he could come out. So it could be interesting in there. All right, let's go to that in secondary. Start cornerbacks. Free agent-wise, there's C, Carlton Davis, Javarius Ward, DJ Reed, Stephen Gilmore, Trey Wright, Eric Stokes. From a prospects, though, pretty good class. A-. This is, again, one of those areas in there. Would you consider the cornerback class top 3, guys, in terms of value?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably them. I mean, it's them, D-tackle, running back. I think they're kind of fighting with edge, I would say.
I would say that as well.
Okay. So yeah, on the prospect side, obviously we know Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Sean Revel Jr. came out, so he's there. Trey Amos is a guy that I know like a lot of the scouts kind of like, PFF guys kind of like him there. Jedi Barron, Maxwell Harrison as well. So like there is depth there. I do think that this is a fun corner class. Like people have talked about day 1, day 2, like impact players here, and I think that's something to know as well. The free agents, if there's one you had to pick, Randy, where'd you go on free agent side?
I mean, it feels safe to say like Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed.
Yeah.
It's just it's tough because like there's a lot of just vets on here that I just don't think are getting a lot of money. Like there's a good amount of slot corners in here. So I think DJ Reed, but it's just one of those like, how much are you paying for these corners at this age?
Well, Minnesota will pay for some of these guys just to come there.
They got to pay for something.
Yeah. Carlton Davis has been good for Detroit this year. I mean, fine. There have been moments of like pure dominance and then moments of, wow, he kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, DJ Reed to me, I don't think anyone's going to want to go back to the Jets, to be honest, but like he's still a good corner. I think that whole team has been in such disarray this year that it's kind of hidden the fact that Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed are still very good. But still, this free agent class is kind of gross, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, for a prospect, I kind of have a gross Will Johnson take. I'm gonna save it for another pod when we kind of get closer. I've been kind of put off by the way he's handled his season towards. I don't know, like
boomer
there's something there in terms of that. But I mean, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson for sure. I think Revel Jr. is gonna be interesting. I think that process is gonna be kind of with the injury and what he can or cannot do in the pre-draft progress. Trey Amos is a guy that people really like. Jedi Barron, these guys. And again, I think it starts at the top. I do think Hunter needs, I don't know how much, I've said this in the Discord that we have, him playing the wide receiver kind of cornerback role that he has. I think it's hurt him in both sides of the ball. Like, I think it has, like, I want him to play both sides because I think he's talented enough, but I do think that teams are going to look at it and say, maybe you need to specialize in one area and really get good at that before we move you over and try to play you on both sides. I do think he can play corner full time. I think maybe the impact thing, he's going to be so scrutinized, man. Like if anybody catches a football over this kid, people are just going to be saying, hey, he's not that talented. Hey, there's that. Where I do think he can shut down the field on that side of the ball. And I think he can do a good job. But he's going to be, of all the guys here, he's under the most pressure. It is what it is. Like he's going to be deemed, if he goes 101 overall, like many have mocked him, like this kid's got to be special out the gate or he's going to get a lot of crap.
I mean, but he's been kind of scrutinized his whole college career too. Made the bold choice to go to Jacksonville State, as the top recruit, and then he's just lived up to every expectation so far. And yeah, he's better as probably his own corner, but he can play the man. And he's got the grittiness. The ball skills are incredible, obviously. So, like you said, I think he could shut down his side of the field. It's very curious just to where he goes because, like, if he goes to the Patriots, they need a more wide receiver than corner from what with Gonzalez and everything they have there. But if he goes to Carolina just would use him both ways 100%. They just need everything possible. But it's just weird to see where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is another one where it's like, you can justify playing him on offense, but they definitely need him on defense. So it's tough. It's interesting with Hunter. A lot of the conversation is like, man, he's pretty wiry and like he's playing a lot of not Pac-12, Big 12. I've done that twice now in the last 2 weeks. That's kind of embarrassing. But he's playing a lot of Big 12 wide receivers that, like, imagine Travis Hunter versus like T. Higgins, for example. Like, I know Hunter has the athleticism, but T. Higgins is going to bully him. Mike Evans would put Travis Hunter in a body bag right now because I just think Mike Evans is just so much bigger and stronger than him. And that's where I get a little concerned. But then on the flip side of things, like the wide receiver aspect, I don't think he's refined at all. I think he wins based on his athleticism, like pretty constantly. So while he's still like my number 2 player, that this is me being overly critical. He's still an elite prospect, but like
He's always
Man, I do have like those little concerns sit in the back of my head. We've talked about it a lot in the Discord where it's like, yeah, I don't really know if he can play both ways at the NFL level. I don't know.
No, I think Jacksonville is one of those key situations though, just because it's very clear for them. You're playing corner, we're using you on offense because they've already done that.
Yeah.
They've done that. He's going to be the kick returner. Blah, blah, blah. He's going to play a lot still, but I think that he's going to be having discussions, and Dion's going to be having discussion with teams of, listen, I want to play both ways. It doesn't have to be 100% of the snaps, but I want to play both ways, and I think that'll shake out who can take him and who won't.
Yeah. I secretly want him to go to the Patriots. That is kind of I want to see him with Drake
fun.
May there, and then I think they'd have one of the best secondaries in football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd
be a good time.
I mean, they signed T. Higgins, draft him.
They're back, baby. The Patriots are back, kind of. We'll see. All right, let's go to safeties. We'll wrap this up. Top free agents. I mean, we all graded this class really good. A-, Buda Baker, Justin Reed, Harrison Smith, Justin Simmons, Cameron Bynum, Talanoa Hufanga.
There we go.
All right.
Look at you go. That's two tonight.
That's one Samoan. Good job.
Hey, okay. We didn't need to go there. And then, from a safety, it's hard in college. I mean, I think Malachi Starks is the top 15. Most say he's the pick there. We get a C+. After that, a lot of question marks. Sebastian Castro, Xavier Watts, Kamari Ramsey, Kevin Winston Jr., Nick Imanwari. Damn it, I just had the hot on Hufanga, and then you just killed me there.
Ride the moment.
Good ride the moment. Safety class. I mean, obviously, if you want to go after anybody in the top free agents, you're going to go after some of these guys, probably on the free agency side if you need one. I think it just comes down to will teams pay up for that safety? I think that's the question of where that money is going to come from there. Randy, who would you pay up for here if you wanted to take a shot here? Baker?
I mean, no, it's Javon Holland who's not in the list. It's just he's probably going back. It's just money-wise with the Dolphins. How do they do it necessarily? But he's by far the best player. But a lot of the best safeties in this list have injury history. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We didn't mention Javon Holland because we expect him to go back, and he's going back to Miami.
Yeah. I personally love Hufanga, but
but he's been injured.
I like a different kind of safety. So
but like we need to see. He's supposed to come back this week. I think he was designated to come off IR. Yeah. So we'll get to see him on a team that has really like no playoff hopes. But if he still flies around the way he tends to do, like that might be the big get in this group.
Yeah. Well, it's like Justin Reed most likely staying. Justin Simmons, I don't know if he stays or goes. Jeremy Chin has really showed out this year. I'd be surprised if they let him go. Trevin Moehrig is consistently grown. I think I'd be shocked if the Raiders let him go, but if you're paying him and Spillane, heck, we're not paying anyone else, especially on offense, so screw it. Might as well try and keep the only good players possible. But yeah, that's why, like, I know you guys had A- and A, and I had B+, and it was really just because, like, there's some great names, but are they leaving?
Yeah. Like DeMar Hamlin, he's come alive this year.
And
so I will say the safety class, like I think Starks, Watts, and Castro are plug and play starters. I think Nick Imanwari is a guy that you see a lot of the athleticism, the athletic upside, but like I think there's still some refinement that needs to happen there. I see some first round hype for him. I can't get there. Like I think he's a day 2 player. Kevin Winston, once again, another player coming off of injury. So like safeties, what are you doing? Stop getting injured. But like if he declares, I think that certainly helps this class. I had a first round grade on Winston over summer, and it's like I haven't really been able to revisit it because he didn't play. So, but I do like this class quite a bit. Starks is obviously the big get, but Watts, I mean, for anyone who's interested in watching Xavier Watts, just go watch what he just did against USC last week. Just an incredible performance by Notre Dame in general, but Watts was outstanding.
So Castro, Watts, Ramsey, how would you stack them with the top safeties of last year's class? Because I know we liked like the top 3, but we knew they were day 2 guys. You know what I mean?
Can you it's kind of late. Can you refresh my memory? Who the heck was in last year's class?
Oh, I was trying to not say it. I won't lie to you. because I was kind of blanking on the names, but I see all the
Tyler
Newbin.
Newbin.
Newbin,
Kalen Bullock, Cole Bishop,
and
Jaden
then the
Hicks,
guy in the Rams from Miami. Both
uh,
Miami safeties, really.
Cameron Kinchins,
Cameron
Yeah,
Kitchens.
James
Kitchens.
Williams.
Yeah.
Jaden Hicks.
Yeah, I mean, th-
Better
it's
than
kind of
Newbin,
similar,
right?
right? Because like Malik Mustafa stepped in for Hufanga, and he's been playing really well.
Yeah.
I like Cole Bishop a lot. He forced a fumble the other night. Kalen Bullock, is what he is. Tyler Newbin's been really good, and Cameron Kinchins looks like last year Cameron Kinchins, where everyone was like, "Oh, first rounder," and then he sucked last year, and then he came back, and now he's good again. So I think it's similar. I think I would take last year's class in a vacuum, but I think there's more potential in the depth of this class here.
Last year just did. I mean, Starks is just head and shoulders above is the thing. But that's because I just know we were really. I mean, it was really like we knew Newbin was the best, but we liked a good amount of last year. That's why I was like, can you just?
Yeah,
is it about the same? Because that's the thing. Like, yeah, maybe they didn't go first round. They didn't go high on day 2 necessarily, but a lot of them make an impact, and I think that's kind of the thing to say for the safety class, especially if they all come out. But that's the question.
Big question.
The thing with Starks, you guys called me a boomer earlier, and I am a boomer. But when you think of Starks, he reminds me of like the old school boomer safeties that I love so much. Like he is like that.
Yeah.
Man, he's so versatile. Like back end, like and also deep. Like he can cover, he can come up. He's physical. He can tackle, not just like hit hard. Like he can tackle. Like he has that ability. He's consistent. But it's always going to come down to, does a GM take a safety that high? It's just going to come out. It always going to come down to that question. But you know what? It's one of those like best player available. You're sitting at 14, 15, 16, and the dips at the tackle position, the dips here, and like you don't see the value. Starks might just be that guy that just comes in and be an impact player. Like, would you graded him higher like Kyle Hamilton, right? Or no? Where were you guys with Kyle Hamilton?
High.
No, yeah. Starks will be like maybe number 2 on the list of safeties, maybe even number 3 behind the kid on the Bucks, Antoine Winfield Jr. I loved Antoine Winfield. He was my safety 1 in his class, but like I think Starks is right there and in that like tier in that group. I think he's close to a blue player for me this year.
When I watch Starks, gosh, I just think he's better than Hamilton. I think that he's more athletic than he was, or just the idea. I mean, I know Hamilton was what Hamilton was, but just a nuanced, more football player where I think Hamilton can get exposed a little bit more than Starks can. I think Starks can get out there and play a lot of different positions.
I think Hamilton's a better box safety, and I think Starks is a better free safety. The guy that can work on the backside. But I think Hamilton was really good at that in his own right, and he got the highlights as being the box safety. So, but you see it. I mean, Hamilton's playing more box safety now than he has, in probably his whole career, and that's because he's very good at it. So, yeah.
But Hamilton literally, without testing, was a blue player for both. It's just the testing drove it down a bit, which is more crazy because he was able to go sideline to sideline with anyone. That last year, the last 2 years, and he wasn't the greatest athlete.
I will say, I think Starks definitely has more range than Hamilton.
And that's the crazy part, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's the fun thing. When I watch him, I was like, God, this guy just covers the field, like, and he can do a lot of different things out there, like, and it's just like just a football player, man. He's a lot of fun. He would be. I always come back to this. He'd be so much fun to watch the Dallas Cowboys, but I know they won't draft him that high. They don't draft safeties. So it doesn't matter. Wow. But a lot of teams have that same philosophy. So that's why I think that he's getting mocked a lot to the Colts, because they look at athleticism, they look at RAS score, they look at all those things. And I think that's just the reason why he's getting drafted there, because they're like, well, if anybody's going to take him, it's going to be the Colts, just because of the way they kind of look at their players and they draft those guys. All right. Any final takes, Christian, on this? I think it was fun going through all kind of where they're at, the grades and everything there. I know it was a lot, so appreciate you guys hanging on with us. I know it was a little longer than we usually do. But any final takes in these classes, kind of where we're grading out right now?
No, I mean, I think we kind of did a decent job, not to pat ourselves on the back, of like laying this out as we go through a lot of our content over the next few months. Like, I just did a franchise fix for the Bears and on our Substack, and stuff like this is you have to take these factors into account. Like, okay, we've got an A free agent class for safeties and maybe a little bit lower for that same group in the draft. So that's why we're going to pay the safety, and so we will use this as we go through the rest of our off season as we head towards the draft, I think.
Yeah, it's just a good exercise to do, just simply because to do these mocks, and once we get past these ones that were strictly first rounders and stuff, this stuff like this is where it's going to come in the most apparent of like, yeah, well, if all these quarterbacks went out, someone's taking Nussmeier in the second because holy crap, who are they taking in free agency? It's just how it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in here on the Quarters Podcast. We'll be back next week. We're going to be talking top 50 big board consensus because we're nut jobs, and we already going to kind of throw in what we have for our top 50. I know Christian's already kind of done his. Me and Randy are going to get in there and kind of talk about it. We're going to give you that top consensus, and then we'll be doing a college football playoff preview for guys you need to watch there. For those of you that just tuning in to college football, because you guys don't watch anything but the playoff, we got you covered. We'll be diving into those things as we go. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.